Okay. So, dito pa rin tayo sa biological theories of crime. Dito na sa theory of born criminal. So, obviously, pag sinabing born criminal, pinanganak daw siyang criminal. As in, kaluluwal niya lang mula sa kanyang mama. Criminal na raw siya. Okay. So, a key incident in this story took place in Pavia, one cold December day in 1870, when Cesar Lombroso, the father of modern criminology, was struck by an extraordinary super observation. While examining the cranium of a brigand called Giuseppe Villela, he noticed a median occipital depression at the spot. Pag sinabing depression, hindi yung naging malungkot siya, no? Uh, or nag-suffer siya from mental illness. Depression is um, lubog. Okay. So sa skull, yun nga, sa cranium, may depression daw sa at dun sa median occipital part. At the spot where there should have been a projection due to the insertion of the cerebral pulse. On seeing this depression, he was at once astonished. He wrote subsequently that this abnormality opened his mind. Like a large plane beneath an infinite horizon, the problem of the nature of the delinquent was illuminated, which reproduced in our time the characteristics of primitive man right down to the carnivores. If you remember yung mga lessons ninyo nung high school, merong theory of evolution, di ba? By Charles Darwin. Sinasabi doon na man evolved from apes. Unggoy daw tayo nung una. Tapos naging tao hanggang sa naging Homo erectus na, di ba? And uh, somehow this is related to that. Kasi daw, ang isang kriminal ay ugaling or hindi siya nag-evolve into a man. Kumbaga nanatili kahit na tao na siya, kahit Homo erectus na siya, pero yung mga characteristics niya nanatili doon sa pagiging, sabi nga diyan, carnivore. Ano to, nanatili siyang isang unggoy, in other words. Isang primitive man. Okay. The wax impression of the cranium at the site corresponding to the posterior cranial fossa clearly demonstrated a perfectly regular trilobed cerebellum as found in a 5-month fetus. That is to say, a highly developed cerebellar vermis. This characteristic, typical of lemurs, one family of prosimians, alam niyo yung lemur, para siyang daga na parang fox, ganun. And some species of rodent, ayun nga, daga, indicated, according to Lombroso, the persistence of ancestral atavistic characteristics in Villela's cranium. I think we've discussed this already, yung atavism. Ang isang atavist ay is a condition where the person did not evolve into a person. Kumbaga, hindi niya taglay ang katangian ng isang normal na tao. Nanatili yung mga katangian niya, yung mga characteristics niya, doon nga sa pagiging unggoy, primate. Okay, the criminal was biologically linked to inferior animals. Yung criminal daw, ang katangian niya ay linked o kaparehas o yun na nga, konektado, may pagkakahawig sa kung ano ang katangian ng mga hayop. Hayop na yan, di ba? Okay. So, his deviance was thus the consequence of his constitution, of which the median occipital depression was nothing other than a morphological trait. Yung pagiging deviant niya, yung pagiging criminal daw, ay related doon sa nakadepress na part ng kanyang skull, ng kanyang cranium, which in turn amounted to an evolutionary throwback. Throwback nga doon sa theory of, balik tayo doon sa theory of evolution. As if nga, hindi nag-evolve. Yun yung ibig sabihin doon. Hindi siya nag-evolve into a fully developed person. To Lombroso, the phenomenon of criminality, possibly the product of arrested development at more primitive mental stage or atavism or of a regression to a previous atavistic phase of evolution. Kumbaga, tao siya tapos bumalik yung pagkatao niya sa pagiging hayop. Okay? A process of degeneration seemed ripe for investigation. Thus, Lombroso was heavily influenced by a misunderstood Darwin. Yun na nga, si Charles Darwin. Criminals were throwbacks in the phylogenetic tree to early phases of evolution. Ang kriminal nga daw, ulit-ulit lang tayo, criminal are throwbacks. Sila ay mga hindi nag-evolve mula doon sa evolution theory na yon. If a criminal man is an ancestral form of human being, obviously his anthropological features and physiological reactions would be different from those of the normal 19th century man. Kung ang criminal daw ay may katangian nung throwback na yon, ibig sabihin pati yung kanyang katawan ay katulad nung sa throwback na yon. At kung katulad doon sa throwback na yon, hindi siya katulad nung present na tao. Diba? Gets niyo yun? Kung katulad siya nung dati, hindi niya katulad yung ngayon. Yun yung ibig niyang sabihin dito. Lombroso adds that murderers have cold, glassy, bloodshot eyes, a curly, abundant hair, buti na lang straight yung buhok, strong jaws, long ears, thin lips, while sex offenders have glinting eyes, straw jaws, thick lips. Ayan, yung mga makakapal yung labi, mga sex offender daw yan. Lots of hair and projecting ears. Yan, yung mga physical characteristics ng mga kriminal according to Lombroso. Yan, magkaiba yung itsura ng murderers and sex offenders. In short, pangit sila. So kapag pangit ka, alam mo na. Buti na lang, di ko pa nararanasan yun. Lombroso used various pieces of equipment for different purposes. A hydrospig, for example, was used to study changes in blood pressure in his subjects, who included criminals with long records of offending and normal subjects, while their left arm was attached to the machine and to the right, and the right to an induction coil called Rumkorf. Ewan ko kung tama yung pronunciation ko. Subjects would be exposed to various stimuli, both unpleasant, such as electric shocks, and the sound of the firing of a pistol, and pleasant sounds. For example, music, food, money, or a picture of nude woman. Pleasant daw yun. So, yan yung mga ginamit na equipment ni Lombroso para patunayan yung kanyang theory. So, atavism is part of the theory developed by Lombroso in which a person is a born criminal. Yan na nga, katulad ng sinabi natin kanina, sabi ni Lombroso, ang kriminal pinapanganak siya. Hindi siya na-acquire, hindi siya natututunan. Basta pinanganak siya, kriminal na siya. At part nga nun ay dahil isa siyang atavist. Yung mga katangian niya, yung mga physical characteristics niya. Yun. Atavistic or primitive man, kawawa talaga yung mga pangit, no? Ano sila? Judge na sila. Kapapanganak pa lang, hinusgahan na sila agad. Atavistic or primitive man is a throwback to an earlier stage of human evolution and will commit crimes against society unless specifically restrained from doing so. Kumbaga, paglaki niya, somehow it comes naturally, nagagawa na siya ng krimen. Kasi nga, taglay niya na yung katangian niya. Parang sakit, di ba? Na mga na-inherit natin. Ako, na-inherit ko yung sakit sa puso ng, ewan ko, both sides ko kasi may sakit sa. So, kumbaga, pinanganak ako, may sakit na ako sa puso. Parang sa mga kriminal, pinanganak sila, ganun na sila, then lalaki na silang kriminal. Maliban na nga lang, hindi lang sila magiging kriminal kapag pinigilan o napigilan sila. Okay. So Lombroso developed the theory about born criminal. In 3,000 anthropometric measurements, he found some biological traits of criminals. So ito na. Biological traits of born criminals are unusual size of or shape of the head. Normal. Strange eyes, facial asymmetry, extended jaw, mapanga, and jawbone, too big or too small ears, full lips, leaned forward. Yan, kalabi, kanguso siya. Abnormal teeth. Yan, buti na lang nagpa-brace na ako. Wrinkled skin. Paano kapag matanda? Ito yung tinutukoy kapag panganak or habang bata pa siya or teenager pa. Ito yung mga katagian niya. Nose curled up. Thieves have a flat nose. Paano yung mga Pinoy? Okay. And then, too long, too small, or flat chin. Mga pantay yung baba. Dark skin. Hindi ako yon. And too long arms. Hindi proportion yung arms niya sa size ng katawan niya. Kamay niya hanggang tuhod, ganun. Kasi 'di ba? Siguro naman nakakita na kayo ng unggoy kahit sa picture lang. 'Di ba? Ah, parang pinapantukod din nila yung kamay nila. Itaas sila, may kamay sila. Pinapantukod din nila kapag naglalakad sila. Then, usually, mas mahaba talaga yung kamay nila. Kaya, ang sinasabi ni Lombroso, na kapag mahaba ang kamay ng isang tao, na taglay niya yung biological characteristics nung throwback, nung primitive man. Yun. And according to Lombroso, persons who have 5 or more biological traits are born criminals. So, pili ka lang daw sa 5 doon. Born criminal ka na. Beside physical traits, Lombroso introduces some other traits of born criminal. Hypersensitivity to pain and touch. Use of special criminal slang. Of course, language is learned. Hindi ka pinanganak, marunong ka na magsalita. But, you learn from it, di ba? You learn it, rather. Grotesque expression of thoughts and tattoos. And then, Lombroso later changes the theory of born criminal and develops a new theory. Classification of criminals is made into 3 categories. Nung una kasi, ang theory niya lang talaga is yung born criminals. Then, after some time, na improve niya or nagkaroon siya ng bagong theory kung saan 30% lang daw ng lahat ng kriminal ay born criminals. And then we have abnormal criminals, idiots, imbeciles, paranoids, melancholic, paralytics, epileptics, demented persons, alcoholics, and hysterics. Kumbaga, ito yung mga may sakit. Okay? Take note ha, yung idiots, imbeciles, hindi sila yung it's a classification na kung saan ang IQ ng isang tao ay mababa. Okay. Hindi sila yung basta, yung mga kakilala nyo na basta tanga lang. Hindi ganon. Sakit ito. Dahil nga mababa yung IQ nila. Okay. Then, the third one are occasional criminals. Under occasional criminals, ito yung mga nagpa-fall under doon. Criminaloids, they had difficulties during their childhood and can occasionally behave delinquently. So, mga hindi naging maganda ang pagpapalaki sa kanila or hindi talaga sila napalaki ng maayos. Either because pabaya ang magulang nila or wala talagang nag-alaga sa kanila nung bata sila. May mga ganun eh. Okay? And then pseudo-criminal are insane persons and those who committed crime in self-defense. So, occasional criminal pa rin yun, kahit na self-defense. And then habitual criminals, from the term itself, habitual nga. So, habit nila yun. Had a poor education during their childhood or have been in social interaction with criminals. Further studies of Lombroso's thesis were made by Gore and in 1913 and Hooton in 1939. Okay? Okay. Ano yun? So, si Goring, Charles Bachman Goring, in his book, The English Convict, a Statistical Study, contests Lombroso's thesis based on the experiment he made on 3,000 criminals and criminals under the sponsorship of the British government. Goring, assisted by other prison medical officers, as well as Carl Pearson and his staff at the biometrics laboratory, collected and analyzed data bearing upon 96 traits of each of over 3,000 English convicts. He ultimately concluded that the physical and mental constitution of both criminal and law-abiding persons of the same age, stature, class, and intelligence are identical. There is no such thing as an anthropological criminal type. Yun. May kumontra kay Lombroso. Sabi niya kasi, yung physical and mental constitution ng isang kriminal at ng isang law-abiding person na parehas sila ng age, stature, class, intelligence, parehas lang daw. Eh, kung parehas lang sa kriminal at sa hindi kriminal, o di walang born kriminal. Yun ang sinasabi niya. He did, however, assert that it is an indisputable fact that there is a physical, mental, and moral type of normal person who tends to be convicted of crime. That is to say, our evidence conclusively shows that on average, the criminal of English prisons is markedly differentiated by defective physique, as measured by stature and body weight by defective mental capacity. Goring went on to argue that one of the measures in which to combat crime was to regulate the reproduction of those degrees of constitutional qualities, feeble-minded, inebriety, epilepsy, social instinct, and others. Kailangan daw ma-regulate yung pagpo-produce, pagre-reproduce ng mga ganitong tao, yung mga may ganitong katangian na tao. Okay, next. The Lacazan School by Alexander Lacazan. The Lacazan School rejected Lombroso's theory of criminal type and of born criminals and indicated the importance of social factors. Class, baka malito kayo ha. Hindi porket may mga kumukontra sa isang theory, ibig sabihin, higit na o mas tama na yung isang theory. Kumbaga, normal yan na may kumukontra, di ba? Normal na may kontrabida sa buhay natin. Because that is how social science is. Dahil nag-evolve, di ba? Iba ang pamumuhay noong mga unang panahon, 1900s, 1800s, 1700s, at iba rin ang pamumuhay natin ngayon. Iba na ang mga crimes ngayon compared sa crimes before. Kaya nagkakaroon ng mga bagong theories. Kaya yung mga studies, may mga studies na kumokontradict na sa mga naunang studies. Okay, but again, it does not mean that one theory is superior to another theory. Okay, basta just take it as it is. Normal yan na nagkokontrahan sila. Okay, but just look at the evidence itself. Tignan mo lang kung anong laman ng mga theories. Then, kayo nang bahala mag-determine kung which of the theories are actually correct for your perspective. Okay? Asan ako? However, this theory did not reject biological factors. Indeed, Lacazan created an original synthesis of both tendencies influenced by positivism, phrenology, and hygienism, which allege a direct influence of the social environment on the brain and compared the social itself to a brain upholding an organicist position. Furthermore, Lacazan criticized the lack of efficiency of prison, insisted on social responsibilities toward crime and on political voluntarism as a solution to crime, and thus advocated harsh penalties for those criminals thought to be unredeemable. Yung mga hindi na daw unredeemable, hindi na mariredeem yung sarili, hindi na nila maaayos yung mga pagkakamali nila. Recidivist ang term niya dito, yung mga paulit-ulit na lang gumagawa ng krimen. For example, by supporting the 1895 Law on Penal Colonies or opposing the abolition of the death penalty in 1906. Okay, Hans Eysen, a British psychologist, claimed that psychological factors such as extraversion and neuroticism made a person more likely to commit criminal acts. He also included a psychoticism dimension that includes traits similar to the psychopathic profile developed by Hervey Cleckley and later by Robert Hare. He also bared his model on early parental socialization of the child. His approach bridges the gap between biological explanations and environmental or social learning based approaches. Ernest, in some books, Ernst lang siya. Ernst, Albert Hooton, confirms Lombroso's thesis based on the research he made on 14,000 criminals and 3,000 non-criminals from 10 federal states of the United States, though his criminal study was criticized as Lombroso-like in assuming the existence of criminal types. So, ito yung kanyang theory, a general inferiority theory. Hooton used his work in racial classification and applied it to the area of criminal behavior. Hooton believed in Cesar Lombroso's theory of the word criminal, according to which criminals could be identified based on their physical characteristics. Through his own research surveying American criminals, Hooton tried to find evidence supporting Lombroso's theory, suggesting that criminals have inferior characteristics compared to people who do not commit crimes. He classified those characteristics into sociological, psychological, physical, morphological, and pathological areas. For example, according to Hooton, criminals are less often married and more often divorced. Hindi sila nagtatagal sa relasyon. Criminals often have tattoos. Criminals have thinner beards and body hair, and their hair is more often reddish brown and straight. Criminals often have blue-gray or mixed-colored eyes and less often dark or blue eyes. Safe. Criminals have low sloping foreheads, high nasal bridges, and thin lips. Criminals' ears often have rolled helix and a perceptible Darwin's point. Based on these observations, Hooton concluded that the underlying cause of criminal behavior is to be found in physical characteristics. That is, physical inferiority. As in, yung katawan mo daw is inferior. He suggested that human somatotype, body shape, and physique can even determine which type of crime a person will commit. That will be discussed later. Tall, slender men are predisposed for murder and robbery. Tall, medium, heavy men for forgery. Tall, heavy men for first-degree murder. Medium height, heavy for antisocial behavior. Short, slender for burglary and larceny. Tall, medium, heavy for arson. While short, heavy men for sex offenders. Since he believed that biological predispositions determine deviant behavior, Hooton advocated the removal of criminals from society, seeing no hope in their rehabilitation. Sinasabi niya kasi, dahil may mali sa katawan nila. So, di ba, we are born with this body. Dahil may mali daw sa katawan nila, hindi na daw talaga sila dapat i-mix pa sa society. Dapat i-segregate na lang sila. Dahil wala na silang hope for rehabilitation dahil nga taglay na nila yung physical na katangian na yun. Okay. So ito 'yon, yung somatotyping theories. Pasok dito yung sinasabi ni Hooton. Okay. Somatotyping or physiology. This refers to the study of the body build of a person in relation to his temperament and personality and the type of offense he is most prone to commit. Nakabase sa katawan ng isang tao kung ano ang krimen na most likely i-commit niya. This study, which searches the relationship of body build, to behavior became popular during the first half of the 20th century. Dalawa to. Merong European somatotyping and uh, American somatotyping. So we have Ernst Kretschmer. He classified types of physique and the types of crimes they are prone to commit, namely picnic type, those who are stout and with round bodies. In other words, mataba. They tend to commit deception, fraud, and violence. So, yung mga matataba, mga manloloko daw yan. Yung mga matataba, scammer daw yan. Sabi ni Kretschmer, hindi ako ha. Binasa ko lang. Athletic type, those who are strong, yon, muscle daw, malakas. They usually connected with crimes of violence. So, dahil nga muskulado sila, dahil nga malakas sila, mga violent crimes ang kinocommit nila. Murder, also rape, yung mga ganon. And then asthenic type, those who are skinny and slender, yung mga payat, asthenic daw. Their crimes are petty thievery and fraud. Snatcher. Siyempre, pag payat, mabilis kang tumakbo, di ba? So, imagine niyo na lang kung mataba na snatcher. Mahirapan siyang tumakbo. Okay? Kaya, yung mga, ang ano kasi dyan, yung mga picnic type, yung mga matataba, gusto lang nila nakaupo. Tapos, mga extrovert kasi sila, kaya magaling silang, mahusay silang magsalita, kaya nga scammer nga, di ba? Mahusay magsalita, mapamulachis tong mga to eh. So, yung mga picnic nakaupo lang, dinadaan ka lang sa salita. Asthenic, ayaw nilang nakikipag-usap. Ayaw nila ng contact sa tao. Ang magiging contact lang nila kapag may kukunin na sila. Kapag may nanakawin na sila. Katulad nga ng pag-i-snatch. Di ba? Hindi naman kayo mag-uusap. Miss, pwede bang makuha yung cellphone mo? Hindi number eh. Pwede makuha yung cellphone mo. Yun ang tanong niya. Hindi naman ganon. Mag-i-snatch lang siyang kabod. And then 4, dysplastic or mixed type. Those who are less clear, evident, having any predominant type. Hindi mo talaga masabi kung mataba siya o payat siya o muskulado siya. Yun yung dysplastic. Their offense are against decency and morality. So he wrote that there is only a weak relation between schizophrenics and picnic body type, yung mga natataba, and on one hand, and between circulars, the circular type of manic depressive psychosis, and asthenics, athletics, and dysplastics on the other. Among the schizophrenics, also, the asthenico-athletic types are very prevalent. Kretschmer believed that picnic persons were friendly, o di ba? Scammer nga eh. Friendly, interpersonal, dependent, and gregarious. In a more extreme version of these traits, this would mean, for example, that the obese are predisposed toward manic depressive illness. Thin types were associated with introversion and timidity. Yun nga, yung mga asthenic, yung mga payat. Sabi ko nga sa inyo, ayaw nilang nakikipag-usap. Ayaw nilang kahit anong contact sa tao. Kaya introvert kasi sila. This was seen as a milder form of the negative symptoms exhibited by withdrawn schizophrenics. However, the idea of the association of body types with personality traits is no longer influential in personality psychology. Hindi na siya gamit ngayon. Okay, European yung kanina, yung kay Kretschmer. Ngayon naman, American somatotyping kay William Sheldon. Well, basically, parehas lang sila ng sinasabi. Kaiba lang sila ng terms. So it was advocated by William Sheldon, whose ideas were concentrated on the survival of the fittest as behavioral science. He believes that inheritance was the primary determinant of one's behavior and the body physique was a reliable indicator of personality. Ito yung kanya, tatlo. Endomorphic, mesomorphic, ectomorphic. Yung endomorphic, ito yung picnic kay Kretschmer, yung mga matataba. Yung mesomorphic, ito yung athletic kay Kretschmer, yung mga muskulado. Yung ectomorphic, ito yung asthenic kay Kretschmer, ito yung mga payat. Okay. Endomorphic, relatively great development of digestive viscera, tendency to put on a flat, soft roundness, squishy, through various regions of the body, short tapering limbs, small bones, smooth velvety skin, glass skin. Mesomorphic, relatively predominance of muscles, bone, and the motor organs of the body, large wrists and hands, if lean, a hard rectangular outline. Yan, mga mamuscle ito. And then ectomorphic, relatively predominance of skin and its appendages, butot balat, which includes the nervous system. So lean, fragile, delicate body. Di ba ganun yung mga sobrang payat? Parang pag pinitik mo sila, okay, parang pag nahanginan sila, matutumba sila. Kaya parang fragile sila. Delicate body, droopy shoulders, small face, sharp nose, fine hair, relatively small mass, and relatively great surface area. So Sheldon, using a correlational study, found that many convicts were mesomorphic, yung mga muskulado, and they were least likely to be ectomorphic, yung mga payat. Although Sheldon's work was criticized on methodological and subjective grounds, because he rated his subjects' body types himself, his theories were supported in the area of criminal behavior by Gluck and Gluck, who found that in a sample of delinquents, 60% were mesomorph musculado, whilst in a non-delinquent sample, only 31 were. Ay kapag mga criminals daw, 60% sa kanila mesomorphs. Kapag non-delinquent naman, kapag hindi naman sila gumagawa ng mga paglabag sa batas, 31% lang ang mesomorphs. And then by Cortez and Gatti, who found in a sample of 100 delinquents that 57 were mesomorphic compared with 19% of controls, yung mga non-delinquents. Wadsworth in 1979, in contrast to Sheldon's finding that large and muscular convicts predominate, found that British delinquents who commit serious crimes tended to be smaller than average and were late in reaching puberty. Late nagbinata, late nagdalaga. West and Farrington in 1973, in their longitudinal study of London working-class boys, found no association between delinquency and body shape or size. Diba? Magkoko-contradict sila. Yan yung kay Farrington and West. Wala daw connect yung pagiging criminal sa kanilang body type. And then Feldman points out that these relationships between shape and criminality can be explained by expectations. Such features might catch the attention of police or influence juries or sentencing. The mesomorph is more likely to use aggression because size is on their side. Kasi nga, di ba, ang mga mesomorph maskulado. So, mas madaling makagawa ng krimen na violent para sa kanila kasi nga malaki yung katawan nila. In 1939, Thornton showed 20 photographs of criminals to people who were asked to choose one of 4 crimes each of the criminals might have committed. He found that people could match faces to crimes more reliably than would have been predicted by chance. Bull achieved similar results, this time using photographs of non-criminal individuals but still producing an association between some faces and some crimes, which was stronger than could have been predicted by chance. Masters and Greaves in 1969 surveyed the incidence of facial deformities by comparison with 20% in a non-criminal population. 60% daw ng mga 11,000 prisoners na yun, may facial deformities. Pangit sila. Okay, I think this is the last for this morning. In psychology, temperament broadly refers to consistent individual differences in behavior that are biologically based and are relatively independent of learning system of values and attitudes. So temperament, walang connect sa kung ano ang natutunan ng isang tao, ano ang kanyang kinalakihan na system of values and attitudes. Basta, this just refers to the individual differences in behavior na biologically based. Okay, so somatotyping advocates the following temperaments. First is viscerotonic. general relaxation of body, a comfortable person, loves luxury, an essentially extrovert person. So, pasok ito doon sa mga matataba, doon sa mga endomorph, sa mga picnic type. Okay, viscerotonic. Mga gusto lang nakahayahay ang buhay. Then we have romotonic, active, dynamic. He walks, talks, gestures assertively, and behaves aggressively. Ito ay pasok doon sa mga muscles, sa mga athletic type, sa mga mesomorphic type, romotonic, kasi nga active sila. And then cerebrotonic, introvert, is full of functional complaints. Allergies, skin trouble, chronic fatigue, insomnia, madami siyang sakit, sensitive skin, and to noise. Shrinks, mga introvert nga kasi sila. So, ito yung mga asthenic, yung mga ayaw nakikisalamuha, yung mga snatcher, yung mga payat. Okay.